Yeah, but one thing I like about our police department is that every time
Rise and shine. Pour yourself a cup of coffee and tune in to Good Morning Aurora. News, weather, and really cool interviews. Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m.
protests and stuff for the thing.
Good morning, Aurora. Good morning, Aurora. Good morning, Aurora. It is Thursday, the 29th. This is a good interview because we were already just talking it out, just chopping it up already. We have our brother, we have Mr. Anthony Ortiz, Anthony for Elgin on the show today. Good morning to you, man. Good morning to you. This part isn't being shown yet. We're doing the news and the weather and everything. We've been talking nonstop since we got here. We got a great interview for you guys today. We're going to talk a lot about all things Elgin, a few things King County when we get to that part. But we have news and updates for you guys as well. So let's get into that. First things first, dollar holiday photos and curated displays will be offered at a few downtown locations on November 21st, November 28th, and December 5th. Professional photographers will socially distance and wear masks, and photos are first come, first served, and will be available for download. Find more information and updated location details at auroradowntown.org. The Cocoa Crawl will be without the crawl this year due to COVID-19. That's unfortunate. Instead, 2020 Cocoa Crawl mugs will be sold starting on November 6th, along with hot cocoa recipe cards and more at select downtown businesses. So this isn't just no Swiss Miss. This is the real deal, the real deal. Visit auroradowntown.org for more details on that as well. Luigi's Pizza hosting trick-or-treating on October 31st from 4 to 6 p.m. Luigi's is located at 732 Prairie Street in Aurora. The public is invited and parking and admission is free. Goodie bags with treats, coupons, and discounts will also be handed out. Shout out to Luigi's Pizza. Please go there and donate and fundraise with them if you can. And there was also a very cool, I want to say hi to Paparazzi Creations and the Veterans Council and a bunch of other groups, Jen Ingram Art, that were out there in the parking lot of Luigi's doing some things. Vendor show and fundraiser, barbecue on the side. Good times, good times, good times. First Fridays on November 6th will offer something for everyone as the event is complete with virtual, crowd-free, and small in-person events to celebrate Day of the Dead. Shops along Broadway will display ofrendas or altars outside of their businesses. Look for Sugar Skull City artwork and more. Full details are at auroradowntown.org or Aurora Downtown on Facebook. And you guys have seen all of the artwork taking place on the windows. It's great. It's beautiful. The skulls, artistic, morbid, sure, but highly artistic. And I think that that definitely makes up for the morbidity of the skulls all over your city downtown. Serendipity Resale Shop is opening on November 16th with hours from 10 to 5. And again, they came from downtown Naperville after 50 years, and now they're located in the Marketplace Strip Mall on 59 and 75th Street. And the city of Aurora had the naming ceremony on Monday for Mr. George Rayford of the new Community Baptist Church. Shout out to him. And today is the next session of the Change Initiative sessions at Impact Church, 4054 Fox Valley Center. And the next will be November the 5th, Society 57, 100 South River Street. Each 90-minute listening session begins at 6 p.m. with the mayor, city officials, Chief Irvin, Chief Irvin, my bad, Mayor. Chief Irvin, Chief Zeman, and Deputy Chief Keith Cross, and other city officials. The sessions since the 15th of this month have been conducted with full Spanish translations, and those will continue. For more information, you can go to auroratechil.org/change to register, and you have to register. You cannot just show up. Okay. Now, the city of Aurora is in mitigation. So, being in mitigation, there have been reductions to what we could do. bars have to be down 25%. There's no indoor dining. The casino closes at 11 o'clock p.m., so all you gamblers, I know you're mad about that. You got to go home. The superintendents of West Aurora and East Aurora schools and the principal of Hope D. Wall School hosted donors to and supporters of the incredible new playground at Hope D. Wall School during a ribbon-cutting ceremony for the new inclusive space. The former wooden playground was built in 1993 by parents, community volunteers, and staff members. Over the years, the wood aged, and it became a challenge for the students to use all parts of the playground. In addition, the wood chips used as a surface made it difficult for wheelchairs to navigate the area. But now, donors included both school districts, the Fox Valley Park District, and local businesses and organizations. The city donated $100,000 to the project, and we got new ramps, wheelchair swings, and many more amenities that will allow all students at Hope D. Wall to enjoy it. So that's a very positive initiative. Shout out education. I know it's e-learning status, but you can't e-play. Ooh, I like that, e-play. All right, and I think that is all for the news. So now we're gonna get into our interview with our friend, Mr. Ortiz. Good to see you, sir.
How's it going, man?
It's going good. Good to have you here. All right. So, we're going to start off, we're going to learn all about the city council and talk about many different things. But let the viewers know who you are and where you're from.
So, I'm Anthony Ortiz. I'm running for Elgin City Council in the 2021 election coming up in April. I've been active in Elgin for the past 2.5 years. Before that, I grew up in Elgin, little between the west side and east side. I really solidified my childhood over on Meyer Street, which is the west side of Elgin behind the Elgin Mall. I went to Gifford, Abbott, went to Larson for 2 weeks, and then moved back to the west side. Graduated from Larkin High School. After high school, I was a mechanic for about a year. Realized mechanic work's not for me. It hit my knuckles too much. Go home with oil, and I was like, I'm gonna join the Marines, which I think it was a very good experience. It taught me a lot of leadership traits, how to take accountability for my own actions, how to supervise others. And while I was in the Marines, I was stationed over in California. Beautiful weather. I love that. I love that place, man. And in 2010, the fall of 2010, we deployed to Sing in Afghanistan for a combat deployment. We came back in April of 2011, so it was 6-7 months we were there. And during that time, it was a very interesting experience for me being a 20-year-old man. I'm like, there's some things that you never thought at being 20 years old you'd ever see or do at that age.
Right.
And I thought it humbled me a lot. It made me not take the little grains of salt and butter me up or make me salty. It kept me nice and smooth. And like at work, people get stressed out over simple things, and I'm like, just relax.
Right.
And some people tell them to relax, they get more mad. And I'm like, I'm not telling you this because I want you to take it a certain way. I'm just telling you man, there's people have bigger problems in life than us filing a paper wrong in court or
the fax machine.
The fax or something getting jammed up. Just get worked out. Everything is fixable. Everything is fixable.
Right.
And that's how I've been living since then. And so I'm running for city council now. Oh, sorry, college. I almost forgot about the education. So in high school, I never really thought I would ever make it to college. I knew my family wouldn't be able to afford it.
Right.
And school wasn't really my thing. I don't think, school wasn't. I think I barely graduated. I graduated on time with my class like I was supposed to. I think you need 40. If I remember right, you need 40 credits to graduate, and I had exactly 40. So they give you 9 or 10 times to fill a class. Mm-hmm. But I started to do summer school for a few of the classes that I didn't pass to make up for those required credits. And then after I got out of the Marines, I'm like, man, what am I going to do? Because you're so routine. They tell you to do this and do that and do this at a certain time. And then when I got out, I'm like, oh man, it's like, I got nobody telling me what to do. So I
Right.
got to figure it out on my own. So I started going to Elgin Community College. I went there for a year and a half, 2 years. Then after that, I'm like, well, it's time to go to university. So I started applying. I applied for, I think it was U of I down in Champaign. I applied for Loyola. Never thought I was ever going to get into Loyola. Never
Right.
thought I was going to get to that place. And then a couple of weeks later, I got an email back from Loyola saying I was accepted. And I'm like, what? I'm like, man, they must have got the wrong address. They must have put the wrong email address in there. And I'm reading it. I'm like, wow. I'm like, man, I guess working hard, actually, you go to schools and institutions that me as a teenager going through high school never thought I'd be able to do. So I ended up going to Loyola, graduated there with a bachelor's in criminal justice and criminology. And after that, I continued my education over in DePaul, right, kind of down the street,
Yeah.
for my paralegal. And since then, I've been working over at the King County State's Attorney's Office.
Very cool. Um, growing up, what impact did your mom have in your life?
So I lived with my mom until the middle of seventh grade, and then I moved in with my dad. So my entire, childhood, because once you get in seventh grade, you're pretty much a teenager. You think you're
Right.
grown, you think you know everything. So
Right.
growing up,
You're smart. And stuff.
yeah. So growing up, it was me, my mom, my brother, and my sister, and we all have different dads. And my mom was a single lady, and she always tried to do everything she could to make sure we had what we had.
Right.
And my dad was there to help, and he did, like, when she needed money, whatever, she'll call him and he'll help her. And same thing with my other siblings. Well, I'm the youngest, so I guess you could say my older brother and sister.
Yeah.
They'll probably get mad if I call them my siblings. Like, hey, man, you're the youngest. But yeah, she was very influential because she showed that, like, you could do whatever you want, and she'll always support you. Like, you can get in trouble, or she'll be there. You could do good stuff, she'll be there. So that's what I do with my daughter. Like, I treat my daughter the way she treated us, with authority, but love before authority. Like, you got to
Right.
explain to them, like, why. Like, I'll go like, Ava, what are you doing? And she'll tell me, like, all right, why did you do this? Like, there had to be a reason in her 5-year-old head of why she should do that.
Right.
And I have to explain to her, like, man, you can't do that, girl. You have to do it like this, or don't do this because it's not nice. Somebody might take it a certain way. Because if I took it like something bad, like a bad deed or a bad action, that somebody else is gonna take it the same way, but you can't do that.
Right.
Like, I'm a reflection of you, so whatever I do reflects you. Like, oh, look, Ava's dad's doing this, and Ava's a reflection of me and her mom.
Right.
So if she does something bad, like, hey man, what is she learning at home? How are her parents raising her? So I try to instill her, like, we mirror each other.
Right.
So if I do something good, it looks good for her. She does something good, it looks good for us. And that's how we build our family, because if they're like, all right, the Ortiz family, someone has it locked down, then it seems like we're good off.
Yeah.
We have a little bit of a step up.
So what was it like going from, the west side of Elgin to now you're a paralegal? That's what you were doing after college?
Yes.
What was that? What was it like being a paralegal?
It's so when I first went to college, I wanted to be a cop when I was going to ECC, right? So I was taking a lot of, like, policing classes. And then halfway through, a lot of the cops at ECC over at Elgin Community College, or a lot of the professors are either still active officers or the retired officers now teaching those classes. So they kind of, like, instill in you, like, hey, cop's the best job, like, trying to push you that way. So,
Right.
so they can recruit back into their profession.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, oh, cop would be a really good job. So then I went to Loyola and did an internship over at the sheriff's office, which gave me the whole experience of being the cop.
King County Sheriff?
Yes, the
Okay.
Kent County Sheriff's Office. And I'm like, oh man, yeah, I can't do this. Like,
Hmm.
these guys go out there and they do what they do, and I thank them for it. But it's not me. I can't sit in a car and drive around town all day, bending blocks and hitting corners all day.
Right.
I want to be a little bit more. I'm a little bit more active. I'll get bored, and I don't want to apply to be a cop, get selected, do the job, and then quit, and then somebody behind me doesn't get picked, and they actually wanted the job, and I took it from them. So I went away from that career to give somebody the opportunity, because I would have taken their opportunity so they could be the cop.
And not been 100% invested
Yep.
in it.
That's one thing is if I'm not 100% vested into what I'm doing or want to do, I won't do it. Even if I'm 99%, I have that one little hair or that one little itch. Like, I don't know, Anthony. We really jump off the bridge for this career or this whatever it is, and if I say no, I won't do it. I have to be all the way in. Like with the city council thing, I'm all the way in. I think that I really want to do this because I know and I feel I could make a difference within the city. So after I realized I don't want to be a cop, I'm like, I'm gonna go to law school. So I did started branching off into the legal part of my degree. I got the paralegal, and I work at the state's attorney's office. And when I got there, I'm like, I still want to be a lawyer, but maybe not right now.
Kane County State's Attorney's
Office. Yeah, Kane County State's Attorney's Office. So I love my job because I get to work with all my attorneys. I oversee 6-7 courtrooms. So it's Elgin, Aurora, Kane Branch Court, which is on Randall Road next to the Circuit Clerk's office, JJC, which is the Juvenile Justice Center, Civil Abuse and Neglect, and the CAC, which is the Child Advocacy Center. So I get a wide from misdemeanors and traffic all the way to kids getting in trouble, to kids getting neglected, to kids getting sexually abused. So I see all the aspects, and I'm like, my job is cool. Like if I was an attorney, I'd only be assigned to one division or one aspect of practicing law. But with my job, I'm able to learn everything and experience everything, so I have a better range and understanding of how certain things work. If that answers the question. I think I'm on that tangent a little bit.
That was it. Oh, that was total. But hey, no, I'm with it. I'm right there with you. This is the car of tangents. Overseeing all of those departments. They are departments, right? Or is that the
well, right they group them all up. They call them like the branch courts because they're all courtrooms outside of the main building, like the main judicial center.
Right.
Those are like, I guess you could say like satellite offices or satellite courtrooms.
I gotcha. Are there any common threads among them all?
I don't know. Like what do you mean?
Is there, you're seeing all those attorneys and all those people. I'm sure there's a lot of different cases and elements and.
There's a lot more. Like if you get a speeding ticket, it's pretty much, especially if the cop has you on dash cam or has the radar and has proof, that's an open and closed case. But then, if you go to some like the more serious crimes, like over at the CAC, there's a lot more investigation goes into it. There's a lot more senior skilled attorneys that are able to find the facts or find the proof or dig through the evidence and try the case. Like there's a lot more. If that's your question.
What does the public not understand about your job or the Kane County State? What does the public not get about?
One of the biggest things is people call us to file complaints or say like, hey, my neighbor just stole my lawnmower, and then we gotta explain to them like, yes, our office or this office does prosecute the crime, but first you have to go to your local police department or the Kane County Sheriff's Office if you're unincorporated Kane County, and they do the investigative work. And if they feel a crime was committed within the Illinois statute, then it gets forwarded to us. And then it's our job. Well, my job is my job and then my support staff, the people that work, I always say people that work with me. I don't like saying people that work for me because we're all on the same team. People that work with me, we get all the information, get all the evidence or discovery, put it together, and we give it to our attorneys. And then they read through the reports, watch the videos. And nowadays, man, there's a lot of videos. They get body cam, dash cam, surveillance. Some people, almost everybody in Kane County has a Ring doorbell nowadays.
Right.
So, and cops are getting more and more better at collecting all that information. Because before, when Ring doorbells came out, a lot of cops, older cops, seasoned cops, didn't realize like, hey, that doorbell has a camera on it. You have to go back and get it. But now they're like, okay, it's 2020. Let's check everything.
Everything is
yep,
a camera.
yep.
Everything is a
Houses
camera.
have security cameras, ring doorbells, have everything. But so the biggest thing that they think that we're the circuit clerk's office, so they call us asking for court dates. They call us asking to pay fines. They call us to file complaints. They call us for everything. So, like a one-stop shop, especially in the Elgin branch court. When they call that number, it goes directly to our office instead of going. I think that's the only phone in that part of the city hall. So it all comes to us. So we got to redirect it to explain to them. So if anybody's listening, Circuit Clerk's Office, 630-233-37. 13. I already forgot the number. See, I'm at work, I got it perfect, but now I don't.
Well, they could Google it.
Yeah,
right?
that office, if you need a court date, call them. You need to pay a fine, call them. For us, if you're a victim, if you're a witness, then you can call us, and our attorney that's assigned to it could possibly help you. But other than that, we don't talk to defendants. We get a lot of defendants calling us, asking us stuff, and we're like, we can't help you.
Is this your first time running for city council?
This is my second time.
Second time?
Yes.
Okay. But how many votes did you miss it the first time?
I think I got like 1,900 or 1,800. So you need around 2,300 votes to get elected in, to get voted in. The average turnout, the last turnout was 6,700 people out of 100,000 population. The voting turnout in Elgin is very low.
Extremely low.
And then before that, the 2017 election, I think the highest vote getter was 7,000, maybe almost pushing 8,000 votes. So, and that was a non-mayor race. That was just 4 city council people. So during the mayor race, it went down 2,000 votes almost.
Why is participation so low in Elgin?
I think the voting turnout so low is a lack of information. So when I ran in 2019, it was my first time. I was pretty much learning off the side of my hip. Like, I didn't know anything. I didn't know anybody. Nobody knew me. I went into the race late. And a lot of people were like, how do I find you? Or how do I get information about you or your opponents? Or how do I do this? Because a lot of people don't know there's local elections, or they don't care. They think voting for the president, and they're done for 4 years, and they come back in the November in 4 years, and like, hey, time for president again. But no, I feel that we need to put more emphasis on our local elections, because those hit you harder and they hit you faster. So if the federal government puts a tax increase, say on a payroll tax or something, it may take a little bit to get to you, and sometimes you might not even see it because it'll be so minuscule, it'll be pennies on your check. But if your city council says, like, hey man, we gotta up the gas price, let's make it 3-4 more cents a gallon, that's gonna hit you instantly. You're gonna see it right away.
Right.
And you're gonna feel it, because instead of paying $20 to fill up your car, you're paying $25-30. You're like, oh man, what happened to the gas price? So I feel that the local elections are just, if not more important than the federal elections.
What will you bring to the Elgin City Council?
So some of the things that I made, I think 2 videos already on Facebook I posted already about transparency. I was watching actually yesterday. I like to watch other towns and cities around Elgin to see what they're doing within their city hall, and they were zooming Facebook Live in their finance committee talking about the 2021 budget.
Right. And
their aldermen were asking good questions of like, why is this department getting this much money, or why are they asking for this much money, and why is their personnel getting shifted from department to department, and if this personnel goes here, does this department get less money? Like, they're asking the good questions, the maybe questions people want to know, like, why is the budget so much within the city?
Yeah.
But in Elgin, there's not that much transparency that I've noticed. Like, they call them workshops, where they first get together and talk about the shortfalls they might have come the next year or coming years, or where they're doing good in, and where they might have to take some kind of cuts or staff cutting or furloughs. But they have those workshops and meetings outside of venues that have video streaming services. So if you want to go and hear it firsthand, you have to go to the meeting and go in person. Or you have to read the newspaper and whatever the newspaper reports, what the newspaper thinks is relevant. and thinks that the viewer and reader should know. That's what the newspaper reports. So what I want to do is what kind of like what you guys are doing down here in Aurora. Make it more accessible to people that may have to work or can't make it to the meeting, or now with COVID where you can't have too many people within one meeting room or location.
Right.
And they can go and view it on their own time. Like right now, people in Aurora could go today in the morning when they have time, or tomorrow or the next week, and watch that finance committee meeting to get an idea of where their tax dollars are going. And that's what I want to do. I want to advocate for is to have a little bit more transparency so they know that their money is being allocated to the resources and the parts of the city that need them, and that they know that we're not just nilly-willy spending the money of the people. That they know that the money is going to righteous places and going to resources that the city needs to thrive and the people need to thrive.
What has being a veteran taught you or instilled in you that you feel can also help the city council and by extension the city of Elgin?
So in the Marines, they have like an acronym called JJ Did Type Buckle. When I was a young Marine, I was like, oh my God, acronym after acronym, and then you got to remember what each letter stands for. But then now I'm like, oh man, some of those characteristic traits are actually pretty good, and I'm glad that I learned them. And one of them was like lead by example. I think leading by example is huge. I hate the leadership. Well, hate's a strong word. I dislike the leadership that when they say, hey, you go do this, but I'm going to go do this, and then they contradict what you're telling the other person to do.
Right.
I'm never going to tell somebody to do something, or I'm never going to ask. I always ask people to do, even if I need it done, or they know I need it done, I'm always going to say, can you please do this? Mm-hmm. I do it at work all the time. Like I can show you my text message thread with the people I work with, and I'm like, can you please do this, or can you please go there? I never tell them, hey, I need you to go here, I need you to do this. So I'm never going to go tell or ask anybody to do something that I'm not willing to do.
Word up.
I'm not going to go and tell the city management staff or ask them, hey man, about to have shortfalls in 2021 in the budget, can you please take a pay cut, without me taking a pay cut.
Word, yeah.
I'm not going to go and tell some of the clerks within City Hall, like, hey man, you're about to get furloughed for a couple days, a week now. Instead of coming in 5 days, you're going to come in 2. And me continue to get a full paycheck.
If people haven't seen you digging trenches, they don't know about digging trenches for you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You have to be living by example. That's very true.
And
very true.
Another thing is the ability to convince people. Because in the Marines, it's all tact. You got to be tactful when you talk to your superiors. You got to be able to get your point across to them without them thinking that you're trying to tell or ask them, or I keep saying tell, but tell or ask them how the way it should be. You got to be able to get your point across in a way that you're talking with them to convince them. So it's like one of the examples that came was last year, last fall in August. So I was advocating to help get a street in Elgin renamed after a Marine I went to high school with, and then we ended up being deployed together in Afghanistan, and he ended up dying or getting killed in a second deployment in Afghanistan. And I started the petition process. Was it March, April, May, around there,
right,
to get the signatures, to get the honorary street name and his childhood street. And right before the council meeting to vote on it to approve, one of the council people came up to me and they're like, I just want to tell you I'm going to vote no. And I'm like, all right, man, I really appreciate you telling me. Like, I really appreciate you, but can you just please tell me why? And they said that they feel that it'll be a slippery slope. That if we start renaming this and renaming that, renaming this after people, then everybody's going to want to do it. I'm like, all right, I understand where you're coming from. But there's a merit behind this. Like, this is the first person within our armed services in Elgin that have been killed in action since 9/11. He's like, okay. I'm like, all right, do you have any family in your household or that are in the military? And he said, yeah, I think he said it was son or daughter. One of his kids about to go to the Marines. I'm like, all right, man. I was like, the Marine Corps is going to send you wherever they want to send you. You don't get to pick and choose where you want to go.
Right.
You go where they tell you. You could end up in Hawaii on the beach, or you could end up in Afghanistan throwing lead down range. So if worst scenario comes and something happens to your kid, which I hope never does happen to anybody's kid because it's traumatic for everybody, wouldn't you want to go outside your front door on your way to work and look up at the street sign on the corner where you live and see your son's name up there, knowing the city didn't forget him, knowing that you could see your kid's name up there enshrined on the city on the block he grew up on? Wouldn't you have a smile on your face if your wife went on the porch to have coffee or tea in the morning and sat there and stared at your kid's name?
Right.
And he's like, yeah. I'm like, think about it like that, man. I'm like, this is for the family, but it's also when people are driving on the street, they're gonna see Alex Martinez on there. And I'm like, who's this guy? Why does he have a street named after him or honorary street placard on it for him? They'll start Googling him, and it keeps his spirit and his memory alive of the things he did for the country. So that's why I advocated for it so hard, and he ended up changing his vote. He voted yeah. And at the end, I thanked him. I'm like, dude, thank you. I'm like, thank you for not voting no, and thank you for listening, at least listening to me.
Right.
And hearing me out. Like, if you would have voted no still, I would have understood it. So you told me why. And you came up to me before the meeting and told me you were going to do it.
Right.
But thank you for listening, and thank you for thinking about it. And that's one way of me, I guess you could say, persuading somebody to do the right thing.
Right.
For him, it may not have been the right thing at that time, but he thought about it, like, yeah, this would be the right thing, because there are families out there. Because when I went to Afghanistan, we lost 25 guys. And I bet you all 25 families would love to have a street name. Whatever town they're from, whatever street that Marine grew up on, they'd love to have that their son or son's name on the corner. So that's like one way, I guess you could say, that the tact was there. I was tactfully talking to this council person, telling him like why I think and feel he should do this.
We're in COVID now, in the midst of the pandemic and everything. What was your experience canvassing, going to meet folks?
So I've been helping for this general election. All right, let me go back. So in 2019, it was easy. It was like pre-COVID. You could knock on doors, talk to people. People were more willing to open it and talk to you face to face and interact. But now, I've been, I guess you could say, the general election candidates or the guinea pigs, because we're doing stuff with them that if it works, we're gonna push it over into the local election. Like, this worked. So now it's all more phone banking or in text messaging. Dude, I get a lot all the time. They're like, hey, did you go vote? Or hey, make sure you vote for this person. And then my emails, my guaranteed 20. If I check my emails right now, I probably got 20 of them.
Blown up.
Yeah. So it's all right now. I'm realizing is that you need to do the text message, you need to do the email, and you got to do the phone banking. And,
right.
The way you get your face out there is you got to do the door hanging. So there's really no more knocking on doors asking to speak to the voter. It's more putting your business card or your literature, sticking it in the door, and then when they get home, whenever they open the door, they see it sitting there, and they look at it. Guys, this is Anthony Ortiz running for city council. He wants transparency. He wants better infrastructure. He's an Elgin person, graduate from Elgin, this and that. And this is how I can contact him. AnthonyForElgin.com or Anthony Ortiz ECC on Facebook. Those are how I can contact the guy. And this is what he looks like. So if I see him walking through the street, then I could like, hey man, hey, are you Anthony? Yeah. And I got some questions. You got my walk card. That's 2 voter interactions already. I left him the walk piece. and then they see me on the street. And then if they went and searched me on Google, or if they're Facebook, or went to my website, anthonyforelgin.com, then that's the third interaction. And I want to be able to interact with people at least 5 times. Because by the 5th time, you see them like, Anthony, leave me alone, man. I'm going to vote for you. I got you.
Right.
I got to know you. I know you're a fun guy. I know you're serious. I know you're dedicated. And I know you're loyal to the city. And so for my campaign, like you're saying, the interaction or the canvassing is going to be the electronic part, the social media part, the dropping the lit at the door but not knocking on the door, and hopefully the wind doesn't blow it away and they can see it.
You and the city council, we're not, elections November 3rd, the city council, good luck to you. What I want you to know that people ask about city councils a lot is, why don't the services transmit to the little guy? Do you as a person who's not on it yet, have you ever felt like that, like they weren't doing enough for you living in the city, being a resident? Was it terrible? Because you haven't, I say that because you haven't like attacked the city council at all. A lot of people sometimes attack the institution like, oh, well, that's what they're not doing. You haven't said that they're doing bad.
The thing is, the city council is doing a pretty decent job. And I want to be part of the winning team. And I want to help push the city forward. So if I think they're doing something that is irresponsible or not for the people, I will call them out and be like, hey man, like, or a council person or mayor, and like I said, but tactfully tell them like, I don't think this is the right move.
Transparency could just be better and stronger.
Yeah, like I don't think this is the right move. I think we should do it like this. Let's hear me out. Because we may always disagree, but we can still stay friends.
Right.
Or stay strong, have a strong work relationship. But once you start attacking each other, is when the bounds and the straps start breaking.
Right.
And then you can't come back together. You start burning the bridge. You can't come back together. So if you have a good idea, like help push the city forward, and then you just cause the fight with the mayor, or you cause the fight with another council people.
Bad move.
Yeah, that good idea you have may never make it to the dais or make it to a city council meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't like attacking people. I'll never say anything bad about anybody, but we can improve. We can do some stuff better, because I was just doing a pretty good job. The police department's doing a good job. The firefighters are doing a good job. The city staff are doing a good job. But I think I could bring a little bit extra, like I was talking about the transparency with the city budget meetings, something more to push the boundaries a little bit, to excel the city forward and be more transparent and show that there's accountability. We want to hold every tax dollar accountable of where it's getting spent. We want to hold every council person, the mayor, city staff. We want to hold them accountable for what they do and how they do it and why they do it. If the transparency is not there, then nobody's going to know what's going on. It's like a secret society.
Right. Interesting, man. Interesting. The time is now 9:06 a.m. You're listening to Good Morning Aurora, the second largest city's first daily news podcast, and we're sitting down with our friend, Mr. Anthony Ortiz, Anthony for Elgin. Who's your opponent?
It's not really, well, I guess you could say opponent, but it's Aurora do the same thing. Well, you guys have warders, so it's different. Mm-hmm. So now it's all citywide.
Okay.
So top 4 vote getters are the ones that get in.
Okay.
So every council, they're not all Dominion Elgin, they're council people because they're not warded.
Right.
And so they're all at large. So top 4 vote getters are the top 4 that get in.
Okay.
And in 2019, the threshold was 2,500 votes, if I remember correctly. And then in 2017, the threshold was 2,300. So if you get around there when your vote count, then you have a strong possibility of making it onto the dais represent your city.
And how big is Elgin?
I think it's 33 square miles. It's 110,000 people as of a couple years ago. It's like the estimated census, but once it comes out from the 2020, we're gonna know exactly how many people we have within our city.
Right. They cut the census down early.
I thought they ended up leaving it until the end.
Did it?
I don't know.
I know you guys were beating us in the census response. There was
Yeah,
there was a tie between them.
I was like, man, I hope everybody gets out there because every person counts. What is it, like $1,500 a person or something like that?
Yeah.
So it's good money for the city and good money for the state and the county. Like those census numbers really matter. They really matter because it brings more resources to our city to fix roads and redo infrastructure with technology and everything. Like, that's the one thing that I think the city could do too is because we were talking in the intro about e-learning, and I don't know if you've ever been to Millennium Park in Chicago, but they have Wi-Fi there.
Yeah.
You can just go sit in the park and scroll through your phone or use their Wi-Fi. So I was thinking, I'm like, man, like if this e-learning goes on and it continues, we should try to do this in one of our parks downtown and see how it goes, like a little trial run.
Right.
And if people are worried if people start loitering, then we could do like, hey, come to City Hall, register, we'll give you a username, and just use that username to log in. It'll still be free, but now we know who's using the Wi-Fi, and we know if somebody's down there, they're registered at City Hall, like they're doing legit stuff. And one person that I was telling that theory or that idea to, like, well, who's gonna pay for it? Because in the end, it always comes down to who's paying for it. I'm like, dude, there's organizations out there. We have to find them, and they'll help pay for it. Especially if it comes to a kid's education.
Right.
There are probably tons of organizations, 501c3s, or just people that have really good hearts and want to give back to the youth. And we'll reach out to them and like, this is the idea we have. This is how we're gonna do it. We come with a full plan of how we're gonna do it. What's it gonna look like? Who's gonna affect? Who's gonna benefit? So when we go present these ideas to potential donors or sponsors, they know like, hey man, these people are serious. The city is serious. So we're gonna help them.
What's Afghanistan like?
It's a lot of dirt. So when we first got there, so before we got there, the British were there, and the British were there for I think like a couple years in that town, and they were getting a lot of heat from their parliament, from their government, like, hey man, we can't do it. Well, they could do it, but they were losing a lot of their troops. A lot of their troops are getting injured, so their people, their citizens are like telling their government like, hey man, you got to pull out. Like, we're losing too many. It's an unwinnable battle within that town.
They did it in 1830, so or something like that.
Yeah,
So
it's like it's unwinnable. They're getting a lot of heat. It's kind of like Vietnam here. Like the people were like, get out. Like it's unwinnable.
Right.
So then I guess whoever's in the big people or the big wigs within that division that oversees the entire Afghan region, they're like, all right, we'll send the Marines in. We did in World War II. They helped. We did the Battle of Belleau Wood in World War II. Knocked the Germans back after the French were.
That was World War One. Belleau Wood.
Was it World War One?
That was World War One.
Okay.
No, yeah. I mean, I'll double check my history. I will take you out if I'm wrong with that. But that was I believe it was Belleau Wood was the first engagement of Marines.
That's when the French were getting beat up pretty good, and they're like, "Hey man, gotta send the Marines in." Because I have a couple Army friends, and they're like, "Oh, we were doing D-Day, and where were you guys at during D-Day?" I'm like, "We're doing the real war over island hopping got the Japanese. Like, that's where
Iwo Jima, so on and so forth."
I'm like, that's where the real people were at. Theater, we had our Navy, and we had the Marines. That's all we needed.
That's right.
So if we have that little like friendly banter, like, "Oh, we had D-Day, we had island hopping." Right. Come at us. But going back to Afghanistan, it was a real life-opening experience to see the way those people lived. Like the way that community over there lived was 180 degrees different than the way Americans live here. Like a lot of times they don't have electricity; it goes in and out, or running water, like when they say like a third world country, like when they say it on the news when I was growing up, like what is that? Like how can I experience that? Like how would I know what that actually means? Because we're so privileged here in the United States to have all these amenities and all these luxuries, and when you go over there and see these people thriving with the bare minimum, that's what also humbles you. Is like, man, these people could do it. They could survive with the bare minimum, and us Americans are still crying for more. We're very entitled people. But yeah, over there is like every day was adrenaline rush.
Really?
You were either getting shot at, or you getting radio calls over the radio that people need backup or support because half of their platoon hit an ID and like three guys down. So we have to go help them and get their guys back to base so they get lifted out of the operation zone back to one of the local hospitals or
right.
And it's
local hospitals. We're talking field hospitals.
Yeah, field hospitals where they pop up tents and they bring doctors in and they work on you there till they get you to Germany. Gotcha. Everybody went to Germany that I know of, and once they get to Germany, they fix them, and if they can't fix them, they just send them back to Maryland.
Right.
And yeah, like there was one I remember, and one of my friends, he got shot. And the day before that, I seen the guy planting the IED. And I'm like, man, so I readied up, and I'm like, hey, we got him. I'm sitting here watching him put this bomb in the ground.
When you say watching him, how are you watching him?
So we were in like an outpost. It's called the Sangin-Wadi. It was like a dried up riverbed that we were using for logistics purposes to drive between different bases within that town.
Right.
And the Taliban, they knew that we drove certain routes because you can see, I see the tire tracks. We tried to drive the same route to avoid IEDs. IEDs was the biggest thing that was our enemy there. It wasn't really the fire. There was a lot of firefights, but it was mostly the IEDs. And IEDs are like homemade bombs. So if you step, it's like it has a little pressure plate. If you step on it, it blows up.
Improvised
explosive device. Or so there's most of them were pressure plated. So if you step on it, it blows up. Or they had some that were CV. I think it's what they call it, CV. Where they put like a little chip in the bomb, and then somebody calls a number, and it blows up, kind of like you see on TV.
Right.
But with those, we were getting good. The DOD was giving us like jammers that were put on our trucks, and that some of the guys carried them, like in backpack style form.
Right.
So as we were patrolling, we'll turn the jammer on, so all radio frequencies were getting cut besides ours.
Right.
So if you were next to us on a cell phone, the cell phone probably wouldn't work.
Right.
It was jamming your frequency. So that was helping with that. Wasn't helping with the pressure plates.
Gotcha.
So when this his name was Rusk, when he got shot. Well, before he got shot, I seen the guy doing it. I'm like, man, we have to engage. So I was calling it up, and they're like, no. My superior was telling me no. And I'm like, man, we have to. He's putting the bomb in. Somebody's gonna get hurt. And they're telling me no, don't do it. So, being the subordinate, being the guy I didn't want to get in trouble, which I regret it. I really do. You get a lot of survivor's guilt, and one of the survivor's guilts I have is I should have disobeyed orders and shot the guy while he was doing it. Because if I would have did that while he was doing it, the bomb wouldn't have been there. Because it would still be laying outside the dirt, and we could have went and got it.
Right.
And I should have did it. So the next day, a convoy goes through, and they hit it, and their truck gets blown up. So the guy, Russ, that got shot, he was the dog handler. So he had to get out, survey the area with his canine to make sure there was no other explosives in the area or anything. And while he was doing that, he got shot by a sniper. So it was pretty much a setup. They're going to blow up the first truck, wait for people to start dismounting to start surveying the area, and then there's going to be a sniper and start shooting.
Right.
And that's what happened. He got shot. So we had to go get him and bring him back into our thing. And we were calling for air support, and I think it was the Brits. The British ended up coming because somebody else said they couldn't come without an escort because they didn't want to get shot down. They were scared to get shot down. I think it was the Brits that showed up, and they landed that helicopter in the middle of a firefight. Like those guys have some balls. Like when we were there, like we were bantering with the British, like America's better, and like oh no, the Brits are better, but those guys, man, those guys will land that helicopter anywhere. They were there. They were there for us. Those guys were there for us, and we put him on a helicopter. He ended up passing away, but if if the British wouldn't have came, who knows who would have showed up? Like when they would have showed up.
Right.
To at least get Rusk out of the fight and try to save him. And yep, the British came in the middle of a fight and they landed it. And they landed it in like, they came in, I think it was a 47. It was like a two propeller helicopter.
Right.
And they landed it in a tight area. I mean, there's no way they're gonna fit a helicopter in here. And those guys got it in there. Those pilots, man. I make fun of the air wing, some of my air wing guys, but those dudes. Well, I don't know if it was a female pilot or a male pilot, but man, those pilots were on point that day, and I have a lot of respect for those people.
I think I want to thank you for your service too, man. You know.
Thank you for yours. If you don't know, Mr. Curtis was in the Navy.
Yep.
He was our Uber guy.
The original Uber. So. When's the election? November 3rd?
No. The general, yes. The general election is November 3rd, next Tuesday. Make sure you go and vote. Make sure you vote all the way down the ballot.
Right.
If you don't know who the people are, you can go search them. Google is very accessible. But the local election is April 6th, 2021.
April 6th. Okay, 2021.
And that's a very important election, so make sure everybody gets out and votes.
April 6th, 2021.
Yes.
All right, I'll make sure I write that down later. All right, the time is now 9:19. You've been listening to Good Morning Aurora, the second largest city's first daily news podcast. And we've been glad to be joined by Mr. Anthony Ortiz, Anthony for Elgin. So what's next for you? What you got coming up?
So petition season is over November 16th. So I'm gonna be the first one in line over there, you know.
Okay.
If the way they put you on the ballot is in the order you turn yours in. So if you're the first one turning it in, you'll be the first name at the top of the ballot for that race. So that's my plan, is to be the first one there. I have no fundraisers set up yet because who knows how COVID's going to go, but I'm guessing if it continues the way it is and there's no remedy in sight in the near future, then it's going to probably be like Zoom or how they're doing nowadays for general, like Zoom virtual fundraisers or.
Yeah.
So hopefully something happens where it's safe and responsible to gather your friends and your supporters together and have them pitch in a few bucks to help you get over the edge, because it's community effort.
Right.
You can't run any campaign and you can't do anything by yourself. It's got to be teamwork.
Right.
If anybody says they can do it alone, they're lying.
Right.
Nobody can do anything alone. Like look at you have your partner over here helping with this.
Oh yeah, JB. Oh yeah, we
You can't do nothing alone. It takes a team.
2 turntables and a microphone.
So yeah, that's it. I have everything that get me going. I have my signs. I have my literature. I have my Facebook page. Mm-hmm. Anthony Ortiz ECC. Hit me up. I like my page. I have a bunch of stuff on there.
Oh, you also got you're on the gram too, aren't you?
Yep, I got Instagram. It's Anthony for Elgin, but it's the number 4, not the FORE. And then my website is anthonyforelgin.com, but that 4 is FOR, so it's anthonyforelgin.com.
I want to say, Melissa Mendoza, powerful stuff. Thanks for sharing and thanks for your service. Yeah. Hello, Anthony from Brenda Rogers. Anthony will be a good councilman. Yeah, good stuff. So a little bit of shout out, a little bit of
thanks,
love.
Ladies. Thanks, ladies.
A little bit of community love for you.
It takes some good questions from our host to get some of the good responses. So it's not on me. Like I said, it's teamwork. If he wasn't here asking the questions, then it wouldn't be me here giving the good answers. Well, I think good answers.
Yeah.
I guess it's a biased opinion.
No, I'm glad to have met you. I met you back in the summertime when things were nice and the weather was nice and hot. Glad to have met you and glad to have been able to get your story on.
Thanks for reaching out and giving me the opportunity to voice what I want to do for Elgin and give a little background. Because like I was telling you, the voter turnout, they say is no information. So
right.
With your platform, which I shared on social media before we started, it is a good way. Like hopefully people see like, hey, he's doing this, so maybe I can listen to it and see a little of his background and what he did, what he wants to do, and where he thinks the city can go in the near future.
Yeah, and again, I think what's important that is different from you is that you've only one little stickler, one little thing is that transparency could be better. That's it, really.
Well, I also think that we could, cause with our infrastructure, like I was talking about the Wi-Fi. Like,
oh yes.
We need
sure.
we need better fiber optics, and because 5G is the way of the coming future. And from what I've seen and read, is Elgin buildings itself, it's government buildings and it's local businesses downtown and within the city can't support that kind of data transfer. Then I'm getting to IT stuff. Can't support the data transfer, the uploads and downloads. So there could be a firefighter on the scene, there could be an officer on the scene, and if we have the better fiber optic networks and communication networks, those officers can get in touch faster and data can communicate. The data can upload and download faster to their dispatch. Say the officer needs help, and he radios to dispatch or he radios to a fellow officer that's around him within another beat. They can communicate faster and download information faster. So I think that infrastructure could be another way that we could push and progress the city into the, let's say, 21st century, but into 2021, 2030, in the future.
Right. The show ends on a positive note. What is your message to the people? Oh, wait, hold on. First of all, I'm from out of town. I'm coming into Elgin. I'm looking for a good place to eat. Where should a brother go?
So we got a good sushi spot. Are you a sushi guy?
I could be.
All right, so there's a good sushi spot downtown Elgin. It's on Grove. It's called Cabo's.
Okay.
So if you're a sushi person, you go there. If you're a pizza person, you go to Danny's Pizza on Douglas.
Okay.
On Douglas and Kimball Street, next to the police station.
Okay.
That's a good pizza spot. Where can we get a good burger spot? The Burger King? I'm just playing.
Get that Whopper.
Where can we get a good cheeseburger? You know where they had good Italian beefs? There's a place called Gestures. It's on the northwest side of the city.
Okay.
It's over on McLean Boulevard by Big Timber Road. And if you get Italian beef there, I promise you, worth your money. Worth your money. And they're not paying me for that advertisement. Nobody was.
Okay. All right, Jesters. I'm going to keep that in mind. Now, the show ends on a positive note. What's your message to the people of Elgin today?
So, Elgin's a great city to grow up and raise a family. Crime rate's low. The community is awesome. There's different cultures there. You can learn from everybody. We have our Hispanics, we have our African Americans, we have our Asian people, we have our Europeans there. Like we have like a pot of culture that if you drop in one part of the town, you could get Hispanic food. You go to the other part of town, you get African American food, soul food. You go to another part, you get Asian cuisines, and it's a great place to raise a family because you can get a little bit of everything there. And I think that our government is doing good. It could do better. So you're not going to have tons of scandals, tons of corruption. We have good government. We have good people in charge. But it still lacks a few of the ideas that I think can help push the city forward. And some of those ideas are beneficial to the residents of Elgin, to the community of Elgin.
Okay.
And make sure, I'm not getting paid for this either. Make sure you go to Wing Park in Elgin and go check out that drive-through for Halloween. It goes until November 2nd, and that thing is cool. I really think that was a good idea for the city to do that. And I also know Britain's car wash in Elgin is doing like a little drive-through thing as you get your car washed. They have a little Halloween thing there, so make sure you take your kids to that if you like wanting to get your car washed anytime soon. But those are cool things to do this weekend with your kids or with yourself if you're a Halloween person and you can't do the Nightmare on Chicago Street this year.
Very cool.
So, yeah, Elgin's a great place. I'm very loyal to my city. Like I had said once before that a lot of people say they love, like I love you or I love this or I love that. But love comes and goes. Love is an emotion, right? You can love somebody 1 minute and be very faithful to them. But if they backstab you or do something that you don't like, do you still love them as much?
No. Oh yeah. No.
But if you're loyal to somebody, or loyal to something, or loyal to a city, that loyalty stays forever. You're always loyal. Loyalty doesn't go away. That's ingrained in you.
Right. Yeah, love does. There's people I loved. I hate them now.
Love is an emotion, man. Yeah. But loyalty is a trait. Loyalty is your character.
Right.
Because you may bicker and fight and whatever, but you'll never turn your back on your community that raised you. You never turn your back on an institution that gave you education, like Elgin Community College. And you never turn your back on the people that you grew up with. Like all my friends that still live in Elgin. And all the people that were older than me that helped guide me to stay away from gangs or stay away from drugs or stuff like that. Like, I'm loyal to that city because that city made me the person that I am. And I'm always loyal to the Marines because they continued to educate me and instill discipline. And I'm loyal to my educational system because they took all the swear words out of my vocabulary, gave me better ways and bigger words to say that made me make me a better person. Because when I was in the Marines, I don't know if when you got in the Navy, I used to cuss a lot.
A lot.
Like every other word was a cuss word, and I'm like, man, I'm about to have a daughter. I can't be talking like this.
Right.
Because if I talk like this, she's gonna talk like this. And like I was telling you at the beginning, we mirror each other.
You can't talk like this with an 8-year-old in the house. Are you crazy? Yeah.
So I changed my vocabulary a lot, and so I'm loyal to all those people and all those institutions and organizations that gave me an opportunity and gave me life lessons.
Continue to shape and mold.
Yeah,
that's right. Yep.
You gotta stay like Play-Doh. You gotta continue forming to your environment and constantly evolve to change, because change constantly happens. And once you become that hard piece of Play-Doh and you can't change and mold to your environment, then maybe it's time for you to step aside and let somebody else come in. And I'm willing to do that. If I get to a point where I know that I can no longer progress and do what I'm doing, I'll let the person behind me and I'll help pull them up and be like, this is what I did, and this is where my plateau is at. This is the brick wall that I hit. Let's see if you have the ideas and the charisma to break that wall down like you did in Berlin and continue the progress.
That's right. Shout out to the crushing of the Berlin Wall. That's right. The unification of Germany, the reunification. Man, this is a good history on this show today. I'm loving it, bro.
I didn't know I was so into
I gotta
the
do
history.
Bella Wood. I gotta do that. My homework on Bella Wood. Anyway, this has been a great conversation with Anthony Ortiz. Don't forget, it's still Domestic Violence Awareness and Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So donate, volunteer, help out if you can. 2 great organizations. One of them is Mutual Ground. The other one is Healing to Healthy. Our friends Susan May Romano and Amy Downing. Other than that, on behalf of Good Morning Aurora, we want to thank Anthony for coming through. We appreciate you, brother, and we hope that you have a good rest of the day and tune in tomorrow.